Natural gas is a dangerous gas, of course, a hazardous gas, and so we've eliminated all ignition sources within our hot zone. We're also applying a water spray to disperse the vapours.
Labor out in force in Maitland, calling for action at Testers Hollow.
We shouldn't have communities that are isolated because of a lack of practical infrastructure.
Cessnock Road was last closed by floodwater in January, but calls for the stretch to be raised stem back to 1929. For the past 20 years, Hunter MP Joel Fitzgibbon has represented this area. Until recently, it became part of a new-look Patterson electorate. Labor's push for a solution to a long-standing problem, leaving the local Liberal MP seeing red.
Now it's in a marginal coalition seat, all of a sudden they want a voice. Well, the reality is they're not in government, they can't deliver. I'm taking up the mantle and I will fight for all of these projects to be delivered.
Bob Baldwin is all bluster. He's had almost 3 years, the last 3 years in government, but he wants to blame others for his failures. Bob Baldwin would be better off getting back behind his desk and joining with us.
Meanwhile, following another Easter traffic backlog, Mr Baldwin says he's also pushing for work to begin on the missing M1 to Heatherbrae link. Both the state and federal coalition governments have listed it as a priority.
And I will keep working on that to make sure it's delivered sooner rather than later.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's been slated as a way to rein in debt and increase savings ahead of the federal budget, but a plan to lower the HECS repayment level hasn't been warmly welcomed at Newcastle University.
Across the board, it will hurt students hard and it will hurt the students that are disadvantaged the most.
Under the Grattan Institute recommendations, the HECS loan repayment level would be lowered from $54,000 to $42,000. If adopted, it would mean around 200,000 people nationally would have to begin repayments, equating to $500 million.
Sure, you can justify it by saying it's a short-term budget measure, but in the long term, this is hurting our nation's future overall by providing a disincentive for students to come and study at university.
Newcastle University, like many of its regional counterparts, has a number of students from lower socio-economic backgrounds. Noosa fears by lowering the repayment threshold, many students will be discouraged from beginning tertiary studies.
They don't have savings in their bank account. So if you're paying for rent, if you're paying for food, if you're paying the bills and living by yourself, you're really going to struggle being out there on your own.
Education Minister Simon Birmingham says he welcomes suggestions to make university funding sustainable and will continue to consult with stakeholders. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Once upon a time, Samantha Turnbull grew tired of princess stories, so she created the Anti-Princess Club, a literary series about 4 strong, independent young women living in Newcastle.
They don't like the idea of being rescued by a prince or a king or a knight in shining armour. They like to solve their own problems.
The books proved popular with schoolgirls and boys in the city today.
I want them to have role models that are strong women, not weak, passive princesses that don't do anything.
And for the bigger kids, the Newcastle Writers' Festival opens on Friday, the first of 3 days of guest speakers, signings and exhibitions across several venues.
You could pick a favourite day possibly depending on which writers you like, but I wanted to make each day as exciting and interesting as the other, so hopefully we have people still here on Sunday afternoon who find something that interests them.
No topics are off limits, with speakers to explore a range of current affairs.
We're looking at the issue of family violence, we're looking at Paris and the aftermath of the terrorist attacks, and we're talking about the environment, which is very, very topical, and particularly the impact of climate change. We're talking about regional Australia and the issues facing, I suppose, obviously the hunter.
More than half the sessions are free, but they're expected to fill up fast. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
It's very easy sometimes to get caught up with the digital technology that everybody claims is really what the kids are most interested in, but you won't see a group of more excited kids than those we saw this morning receiving their books.
A red card wiped from his record.
I felt a little bit hard done by on the weekend, but it is what it is. It happened, and move on from there.
Nigel Bogard was shown a straight red for this challenge on Andy Keogh late in the 2-1 loss to Perth. But last night he became the first player since 2012 to have his suspension overturned, the panel citing an obvious error in the original decision.
It'd be dangerous if you start to hesitate or second guess your ability, then that's when mistiming things and other things like that come into play, and it becomes worse.
If it had stood, it would have been Bogard's 9th red during his 11-year run in the A-League and a record equalling 3rd this season.
It's not a record that I'm proud of, but in saying that, over the years there's never been one of those decisions that's been a malicious challenge on my behalf.
His inclusion this weekend is a major boost to the Jets, who also stand to welcome back Daniel Mullen from suspension. Yesterday he trained on his own, and if he does return, the pair will be key to stopping Brisbane's prolific attack.
Hopefully he'll be back on the weekend, and like you said, we've had a decent partnership there at the back. But yeah, we go to Brisbane confident with the result we were able to achieve up there last time, and yeah, we've still got a lot to play for.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It was heartbreak for Forsyths. After leading for 3 quarters during last year's grand final, Souths finished with a flurry to defend their crown. The disappointment is still raw for Carly Robards and her team, who are determined not to let it happen again.
Extremely, especially this time because we were winning the whole game except for the last quarter. We just ran out of steam, and yeah, it was very heartbreaking. But this year, no more.
Former Sydney Swift Tiffany Gilmore is back with the defending premiers after missing last season. They've spoken about a three-peat and believe they have the side to achieve it.
We've got quite a young team with a little bit of experience. I think that really helps. So the young, energetic legs with the older minds on the court, I think that is definitely what helps with the 2 back-to-back premierships.
Katie Robinson will captain coach the newly promoted Nova Thunder.
We earned this spot. By winning the division below, you get moved up into the top division, and why not? Why not challenge some of these teams that maybe think that they have their spot there rightfully, and maybe we can knock off a few of them. We'll see.
Chris Barker and Karina South have reason to celebrate. They're among the first people to call Huntley home.
It's been really good. It's nice and quiet, a bit more relaxed.
We wanted to build a house together. Being in Newcastle, it's a bit more landlocked.
It's a major step for a project that's been more than a decade in the making.
Like a big ship, once it's up and running, it takes a little while to get going, but once it's up and running, it's full steam ahead.
When finished, Huntley will have around 7,500 homes and a projected population of 20,000 people. 45 homes are currently under construction, with a further 55 already approved. Housing Industry Australia says the development is just one of many fueling the region's building boom.
Certainly the numbers we're looking at have been the strongest in the last 4 or 5 years.
During the first month of 2016, 402 new residential dwellings received building approvals in the Hunter. That's 227 more than the same time last year. HIA Hunter Executive Director Craig Jenian says affordable land prices and low interest rates are driving construction.
We still see a lot of mum and dads looking for the 3 and 4 bedroom homes. We're seeing the lots get a little bit smaller in recent years as some people aren't always looking for a large block. We're also seeing a lot of duplexes going onto sites, so people who are getting a little bit older who want to stay in the communities they've grown up with.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News. They call themselves the Old Boars, but they've got hearts of gold. This morning saw last-minute preparations for a charity ride across Australia's Red Centre.
There are some big days, but we've tried to keep it so that we don't, get too fatigued. And because our oldest member's 69, just about to turn 70, and he's determined to ride all the way.
15 members of the Maitland-based Harley-Davidson Club then set off from Beresfield, bound for Perth.
Then we'll fly back to Adelaide, freight the bikes back and then ride home on the Great Ocean Road.
The club's raising money for the Mark Hughes Foundation, which, following his appearance on last night's footy show, is set to receive another significant donation thanks to the generosity of 2 young fans. They handed over Jonathan Thurston's grand final headgear for auction, and it's already topped $23,000.
To, get the prized possession of their grand final headgear, and for them to decide to give it to charity was, it's just blown me away. It's just amazing, and I can't thank their family enough.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
She was a key figure in the emergency response to the Pashabolka storm, and in an ambulance career that spanned 18 years in the Hunter, she was often at the forefront. But today marked a new chapter and a new title, Dr. Jodie Adams-Brinkley.
Well, I guess it feels like quite a relief. It's been a long time in the making.
It was during a trip to Vietnam, volunteering in orphanages, teaching first aid, that the idea to study medicine took hold.
I guess I wanted to do medicine when I was a child, but didn't really get the opportunity. So once my kids flew the nest, it was a great opportunity for me to do something that I really wanted to do.
And now, Dr. Jodie plans to enter GP training and put it to use in her annual Vanuatu aid trip.
With the ambulance service, you see a lot of negative things, and by doing positive things for charities, it made me feel better about the work that I was doing on a day-to-day basis.
She's already found work in the emergency department at Belmont Hospital, although there are some things she's still getting used to.
Although I have found that my ambulance humour doesn't work so well in the hospital, so I need to tone that down a little bit.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Gavin Morris joins us now for a quick look at the weather. And Gav, you're right where some spectacular photography took place last night.
Yes, that's right, Tash. On the coast near Newcastle, but it was happening all up and down the east coast. Let's take a look at one of the first shots. This is from Shane Williams, fabulous photographer. But look at this one with the moonlight there, a huge storm cell out to sea. This all happens when cold air in the atmosphere moves out over a very warm ocean. Sea surface temperatures are still way up there, and that helps to fire up those cells. But let's move inland. Yesterday afternoon, across the northwest plains from Narrabri, this incredible cell moved up over the Bora Range. Time-lapsed here thanks to Godfrey Werness, right near Manila, just north of as it moved towards the tablelands. Now, the good news is all of that stability has moved out to sea, but some would say, well, we wanted more rain from it. But we're going to see more dry air, I'm afraid. The northwesterlies are going to kick in tomorrow. Classic autumnal conditions settling in, so I'll take a closer look at all of your local details in around 20 or so.
Live to air on national TV. It's daunting stuff, but it seems anything is possible for Alex McKinnon with fiancée Tegan by his side.
I'm going pretty good, to be honest. A lot of help from Tegan, but the last few months I've really taken a lot of steps forward in regards to myself, and started university, which is a big thing for myself, and really enjoying my role at the Knights, bit of recruitment at work there.
The 24-year-old also has a new role as ambassador for the Big Day Off, a fundraiser where businesses sign up to give staff a day off and workers buy tickets for the chance. It'll fund research and support services for people with spinal cord injuries.
That's a massive thing with spinal cord injuries, is the support that you get from the people around you, and any extra funding which goes towards that, it will help people with the injury a lot.
This young couple knows the value of community, saying it's given them strength and hope for the future.
You have so many dreams and aspirations as a young person, and then to completely get it flipped on your head, you kind of have to rethink your path in life and where you want to go.
This weekend, Tegan will graduate from her education degree, while Alex focuses on his studies to become a high school teacher.
Sometimes you feel like you're just treading water and trying to get through day to day, but luckily enough I've started to take them steps forward, and I feel like I am moving forward.
To support Alex's cause, head to the Big Day Off website.
The Sea-Eagles will have to do without Daly Cherry Evans tonight as they take on the Bunnies, still smarting from a big loss to the Bulldogs, but boosted by the return of Sam Burgess. Reporter Sam Jordan is at an NBN corporate launch in Newcastle, and joining him live for his thoughts on the match is the Footy Show's Beau Ryan.
Yeah, that's right. Beau Ryan, Thursday night footy, and Sam Burgess is back. How big is that for the Bunnies?
Yeah, it's massive. I spoke to Sammy obviously a fortnight ago when he hurt his neck, and I was concerned for him, obviously going through the same sort of thing a few years ago, but he just brings so much to the side. Not only him, but his brother Tom, who in my opinion is the best Burgess. I think Souths are going to have a pretty strong side, and Manly are going to have a bit against them tonight.
Yeah, well, that's right. It's a big inclusion for the Rabbits to have Sam back, but at the same time, the Sea-Eagles are without Daly Cherry Evans. Yeah. That is going to be a big loss, isn't it?
It is going to hurt them. Just when they started to gel, a couple of wins in a row, it's going to make things very hard, but the thing they got on their side is the game is at Brookvale, and it's very hostile there, so anything could happen.
So I guess the big question is, who's your tip for tonight?
Yeah, I think with Sammy Burgess back and his brother Tom, I think Souths will be too good. They don't usually lose too many games in a row, South, so I think they'll come out firing and they'll win this game.
And Paddy, you can see all the action tonight on NBN straight after A Current Affair.
A very dapper Sam Jordan there with Beau Ryan. Aku Uate will undergo a fitness test tomorrow after injuring his chest joint in round 2 against the Rabbitohs. Likewise, Jared Mullen, who finished Sunday's match despite hurting his neck. Sione Matautia will return from suspension to a backline schooled in defence by the Warriors.
Probably the fact that he's a real winner and being an outside back and bringing that, even though he's young, bringing somewhat of experience to us is very helpful.
A crushing loss across the Tasman, coupled with extensive travel and a 5-day turnaround. But Nathan Brown is refusing to make excuses.
We're obviously a side that's looking to make some real improvements, and we probably need to limit the excuses why we shouldn't do well, and hopefully the young guys can gain a lot out of the experience.
Trent Hodkinson hasn't missed a conversion this season. Today he received expert advice from an unexpected source.
The rest of the coaches are going to spend a bit of time with the Collingwood coaches, and some of our leadership group are going to be fortunate enough to spend a bit of time with the Collingwood leadership group. So, yeah, the mix and match is great, and I'm sure that from our point of view there'll be some great stuff to be gained.
Jason Hoffman has been a key figure in Scott Miller's side this season. A local boy who was given an opportunity to return to his home club and wants to stay put.
I hopefully feel like, I've done, a decent job this year, and I've worked hard and earned a new deal, and, I guess the near future will be sorted out hopefully soon, and I'll know where my future is.
Miller has publicly stated he wants to keep contract talks close to his chest in order to keep players hungry. 11 current Jets will be off contract at the end of this season.
As far as the playing group go and the coaching staff, we wanted to make playoffs and we didn't. And I guess the team comes first, and then individuals, they want to retain for next season, and ones they want to bring in will only strengthen the group, and hopefully I'm a part of that.
The finals are out of reach, and there's a genuine feeling at the Jets they've let opportunities slip.
If we would have won a couple more games, we would have been in the playoffs, and in a one-on-one game in a playoff, I'd back our team against anyone in the league. Without a doubt, Melbourne City are on top of the table right now, and we knocked them off twice.
After years of Maroon success, it was only natural this pair would be reunited at national level.
You got nothing else to do, but so why not bring him onto the Australian side? But we go back a long way, playing, coaching. Surround yourself with successful people, which Hags is. He's got great knowledge of the game, great passion of the game.
It's a fantastic opportunity to be involved with the Kangaroos and work with Mal Meninga again. So looking forward to it.
Michael Hagan's new part-time role will see him work behind the scenes, planning Kangaroos camps down to the finest details. And what better place to start than his spiritual home?
I think it's a really passionate rugby league sort of town. I think that's something that hopefully the Kangaroos can get plenty of support along for that first game. Kiwis are going extremely well.
It's Hagan's first football job since parting ways with the Knights at the end of last season. And it comes at a key time. Mal Meninga's tasked with this year's Four Nations campaign and next year's World Cup. And planning starts with the Anzac Test.
We're still a month away, but we're sitting around watching all the players, so it'd be good to get the team together and play our first game.
Yeah, is it starting to become clear in your mind as to who he's going to play?
It won't change too much, to be honest with you. We've got a great international footy team, test team at the moment.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Time to take a look at the weather now with Gavin Morris. And Gav, it's looking like a beautiful evening down by the beach.
Yes, it certainly is. Any time spent on Merriweather Beach is a good minute or two, even better if you can turn it into hours. It's a beautiful evening. The southerly pushing on through. A few guys out there getting a couple of waves at the moment after what was a beautiful autumn's day across the region despite the southerly. But first of all, let's go to this evening's weather photo to begin a look at the weather. This is a cracker of a shot. It is a brilliant one. Taken about 11 o'clock last night from Glen Henry. This is looking out in between Tomaree Headland at Port Stephens, an amazing light show. That's as that cold air moves out over that very warm ocean. It's sitting at about 22 degrees out there. Further out to sea, it's even warmer than that. Okay, let's get stuck into the weather. Most of the rain fell along the Queensland-New South Wales border. Victoria's Gippsland also received moderate falls with light patchy rain for the northern tropics. Moving to the satellite, and the only real cloud cover over the nation at the moment sits in the southeast corner. There were a few small storms again over the northern tropics, and a shallow trough sits over southeast Queensland, but the cloud from that hard to see here. Moving on to the synoptic, and tomorrow that low is going to move away really quickly. We've got a large belt of high pressure that's going to take control of our weather as we move into the early days of April. Now, a front is going to move in across the Bight and towards the southeast. Now, this is going to affect us. It's going to make sure that those morning west-northwesterly winds remain locked in place. Moving to our major cities, it's virtually a dry nation at the moment. The front passing over Tasmania will cause some rain for Hobart. Temperatures are very mild to warm, mostly in the mid to high 20s for the majority of our capitals. Storm development in the north is still on the thin side. The local temperatures, well, it was pretty close to a perfect autumn's day today. Mid to high 20s were the theme. It was a little bit cooler along the coast. That's thanks to that southerly. But there was a noticeable lack of humidity again, particularly inland. That southerly along the coast, though, has brought in just a little bit of moisture. Taking a look at current conditions, well, I can tell you right now that the southerly is still pumping on through. It's pretty comfortable, probably around that 20-degree mark, I'd say, at the moment. And we're in for a beautiful evening. Tomorrow's winds, now we've reached that time of the year when the westerlies kick in. You might remember last year we began an incredible run of westerly winds that lasted for almost 170 days. Tomorrow's forecast rain, no chance of anything. It is going to be dry. It's going to be warmer as we go to tomorrow's coastal forecast. Those northwesterly winds pushing the warmth all the way to the beaches. We're looking at the mid-20s, but across the suburbs we'll be close to the 30 mark, and as we go up the valley, it's a similar story. We should topple that 30-degree mark right throughout the valley. So overall, it's looking pretty good with the northwesterly winds dominating. Plenty of swell at the moment. The sea breezes are going to fight with that westerly to get in throughout tomorrow. Onto the tidal information, you've got a low at about 10 and coming up to the high just after 4. Sunrise is at about 7 o'clock. To the 7-day outlook for Newcastle, it's going to be a fine, mild, warm all the way up until the arrival of the next southerly that comes through on Sunday. And throughout the valley, that southerly is going to produce little to nothing as far as shower activity is concerned. And for the Central Coast, also similar story with the southerly moving on through. The surf vision, it was taken at Nobby's. It was a little bit crumbly with that southerly pushing through, but I tell you what, there were some nice sets thumping on through here at Merriweather. Jesse A was out there carving up. The boys are still carving it up as we move into dusk, so getting a little dark. Hey, if you want to get your local news story updates, all you have to do is go nbnnews.com.au for all of your local updates.
What was once an industrial area is slowly transforming into a place abundant with prime real estate opportunities.
With what's happening in Newcastle now, we're finding that more people want to come into the city. They're able to virtually almost dispose of their vehicles and walk everywhere, and it's creating a whole new lifestyle.
In Wickham, cafes are now nestled among a mixture of trendy apartment blocks and older homes that aren't coming cheap.
We got people that are paying $450,000 to $500,000 for cottages to knock down and redevelop. So it's putting the new price for a new dwelling up around the $800,000 to $900,000 mark in this area, which is amazing when you think of where the area was only a few years ago.
While in Maryville, buyers' agents like Richard Evans are run off their feet, with many clients being priced out of Sydney.
And the unit over here came on the market just into the weekend and sold on the Easter weekend, which is predominantly a quiet time for real estate, but it was sold over the weekend and it achieved beyond its asking price.
Further out of town, Mayfield is proving the top choice for first home buyers.
Some of Newcastle's most historic homes are in Mayfield. So we've got a lot of people now that are living there because they want that mix of housing. But Mayfield's also got a sensational central business district with all the essential services and shopping centres. So Mayfield, only a few minutes out of the city, is a great place to live.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Working towards the next 100 years. Leaders in the Upper Hunters coal industry came together today to discuss the future of the industry.
Its purpose is really to create communication and conversation, to inspire the Upper Hunter economy to have a look at itself, to seek opportunities for it to grow.
With thousands made redundant and the impending closure of one of the Hunters' largest mines, the boom days are over.
It's certainly much tougher conditions than we've experienced for a long time, perhaps 10 or 15 years.
The industry contributes around $4.8 billion annually to the region, and the industry's message on coal remains the same.
People may not understand just how much coal provides in New South Wales electricity. Last year it was 88%, gas 6% and renewable 6%.
While times are tough, the industry says the outlook is good, with developing countries to increase the demand for coal.
We think that in the long term, the future for Hunter Valley coal is good. It's good quality coal, it's low ash.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
"19-year-old Harrison Kirkwood has viewed the world in a myriad of ways many of us couldn't imagine.
So I could kind of see where paths and buildings were and how they intersected and where the trees are and if there was cars parked on the road, but now I've lost that residual sight.
It's a new challenge, and after relying on a cane throughout his schooling years, he's now considering alternatives to get around.
There's a lot more places you probably may need to go, and it's just more efficient. Maybe having a guide dog, you don't have to run into everything with a cane. You can go around them, and I guess it's liberating too, being a young person, and you don't have so many boundaries and restrictions.
It enables really fluid travel, and you can really increase your speed of travel as well, moving smoothly through crowds, and in open areas you can really increase your pace to get some exercise.
Harrison was just one of several teenagers today learning about the responsibilities that come with a four-legged companion, thanks to Guide Dogs New South Wales, and seeing if the partnership felt right.
It's obviously a new experience, and it's I suppose different is the word, because it's not the same, but with time you'll work out if you can gel with it.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's not easy, it's not great. We just did our last session then and the body's still not 100%, but we're definitely ready to play and we're all set to go.
A whirlwind start to his WSL career, but Ryan Callanan is loving the ride.
Is it everything that you thought of it?
Yeah, definitely. It's the best of the best.
It started off on a solid note, a 13th at Snapper Rocks and a big name scalp, eliminating South African Geordie Smith.
To get a heat win at all is, it's not what I'm striving for. I'm striving for multiple heat wins per event, but to just get one was really nice, and especially such a big name like Geordie.
He carried that momentum into Bells, but was narrowly sent packing by Brazilian Caio Abelli in the highest scoring heat of round 2.
I was disappointed in the result, but not in the way I was surfing. I think I got the highest score of the round, or the second highest score of the round. Probably would have won any other heat, so carry that confidence into Margaret's.
But first, a chance to unwind at home. Last night, he and his mates took on some lumpy surf at Merewether. The enjoyment clear to see.
I love coming home. It's my favourite thing.
It's only a short stay. On Sunday, he'll head west to begin preparations for stop number 3, the unpredictable Margaret River Pro, arriving a week before the event window begins.
Just prepare and try and get used to the breaks and stuff, so we'll just take it as it comes, but I think I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News. He's the target man who is proving hard to find, missing from training this week, and now we know why. His contract with the Jets has been mutually terminated, and he's heading overseas in search of a new club as Scott Miller begins to sort through his squad.
They've been benchmarked and reviewed all year, and the process in which I don't work emotionally. I'll look at benchmark all our players against opposition players, and that's the only way you can do it, because if you make an emotional decision, the club won't progress.
There was a blow to the side at training today. Mitch Cooper going down with what looked to be a serious injury. He was helped off and won't travel to Brisbane. But there is good news. Daniel Mullen ran freely and is now fit to return to the centre of defence.
Daniel was pulled up very well from the little scare, and it was an ironic one to be sent off and then actually wouldn't have been available last week anyway because of the injury.
He'll partner skipper Nigel Bogard, who this week became the first player since 2012 to have his red card suspension overturned.
They had to do it. And it was one of those ones I wasn't surprised when it got overturned, because I think the credibility of everyone involved in football, it needed to be overturned.
Enver Levitic will return after missing last week when his wife gave birth. Morten Nordstrand will again play up front, and with contracts now on the line, he'll lead a determined Newcastle attack.
They're very motivated internally, but more importantly individually, they've got a lot to play for.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
2 months on from its collapse, there's now little left of the Pelican Marina, torn down piece by piece. But while it may be no more, one thing still lingers: questions about the building's structural integrity.
The minister responsible here, Niall Blair, should come here, speak to the community and tell them exactly what the department is doing.
An independent report commissioned by the Department of Primary Industries Lands identified several issues, but ultimately found the marina to be in a sound structural condition. Among its 9 recommendations, that further assessment be done.
Now, I'd like to know if those further assessments were undertaken, because that is the critical thing, I think, that came out of the report.
The department says once it received the report, it acted quickly on a number of recommendations, including removing the jetties and floating pontoons, fencing off parts of the damaged boardwalk, and was in the process of obtaining further quotes when the collapse occurred. Swansea MP Yasmin Cashley says the government took too long to act, given concerns were first raised in January last year.
Not only myself, but also Lake Macquarie City Council had raised very important issues that needed to be addressed, and the minister just sat on his hands and he did nothing about that.
As for the site's future, the government says it's still too early to make a decision. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
What a difference a year makes. After a long and arduous 12 months for Stroud residents, today a milestone and finally a chance to smile.
Yeah, look, we're very lucky to have run a show at all this year. As you know, we lost a lot of the showground a week after last year's show. We're actually the first event that's been on the showground in the last 12 months.
Almost 12 months ago to the day, Stroud Showground went underwater, some of its buildings taken with it. The clean-up and recovery a daily task. But if you needed proof it was worth it, thousands of people enjoying the rides, animals and hours of entertainment.
It's been a fantastic community effort just to get us up to this stage. Look, we're still battered, we're still bruised. Mate, we're running the show, we're here, and we're very, very happy to be able to do so.
With plenty on offer, no one was left out. The Ute Muster featuring vehicles old and new, with a touch of history. The fence post competition, always a crowd favourite. Nerves rose as a chain snapped during the contest, but there's always a backup saw on hand.
When I came here at 7 o'clock, they were lined up past the post office to get in, which is fantastic for Stroud.
The show will wrap up this evening with a demolition derby and fireworks display to wrap up the festivities. Samantha Long, NBN News.
5 minutes in and a huge blow to the Knights' attack. Sione Matautia off injured, not to return. But after training with Collingwood this week, Akuyuate had a few tricks to show. That only seemed to charge the Storm up. Another injury blow with Danny Levi suffering back spasms, but Newcastle continued. Hodkinson's reliable boot putting them back in front. Newcastle was desperate in defence and in attack, flying Corbin Sims extending the margin. But again, it was the Storm number 7 who led the fight back. They then had back-to-back sets before pointing to the posts, the scores now level. The determination in the Knights was clear, Robbie Rocco saving a try while Nathan Ross fought on through injury. But after playing with 15 men and on a 5-day turnaround, it became too much.
Obviously, you get that disappointment for the boys for their effort, but they hopefully can learn from what that effort and commitment brings to the table and what it allows you to do.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Yeah, I'll be a bit nervous on the start line. It brings back, great memories, but obviously, you're always a bit more nervous when you're turning up for a race. And, I'm not sure how hard I'll go, but I look forward to sharing that. If you're working up a hill and you challenge yourself and you get to the top and you get out and you have a look at the view and go, well, hey, I deserve to have a look at that view because I've worked hard. So I quite like a challenging course.
It was around midday when police say a woman stormed this Taralba service station armed with a knife. She allegedly threatened a 55-year-old staff member demanding money. He complied, handing over cash from the till before the woman left. Now, several people who were nearby, they saw the incident unfold and also saw a masked woman running down the main street.
One young girl followed with her phone to try and get a photo. The other chap sort of followed in his car to follow the girl to make sure that she was okay. And she swung on them with a knife, but they were able to get a picture of her and send it to the police.
Police were immediately called and began an investigation, dusting for fingerprints and reviewing CCTV. They then arrested a 42-year-old woman only a few hundred metres away on Anzac Parade. Police executed a search warrant at the address where they allegedly found several items of interest.
It's a pretty good community here and they sort of gathered around and as I said, I went and checked, made sure that everybody else was okay.
The woman was taken to Belmont Police Station and charged with armed robbery. The male employee of the service station wasn't injured. Done.
Battered and broken. These were the scenes almost a year ago at Marine Rescue's home in Newcastle. Looking at the site today, not much has changed. A missing sign, the only difference. And rescuers are eager to get back in.
If we get the premises as we would like, all together, we'll be up and running and to 100%. But we're down to about 60% of our capacity at the moment.
On that miserable Tuesday last April, the Marine Rescue lost virtually everything. Their roof, their equipment, their files, and the ability to work from their heritage-listed home. The area has been locked up for months, with volunteers hoping 2016 will bring some change. Newcastle Council has previously committed to repairing Shepherd's Hill Cottage, but the exact time frame remains unclear.
I always think positive, and I'm hoping this year it will be a positive step to getting us all back together and instead of being separated.
The command has been operating out of a temporary base at Kooragang Island, with its boat permanently based at the Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club.
Where we're going and where we're heading, that remains to be seen. We're lost people.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
There's been a real synergy rather than seeing each other as competitors over the years. Now there's a real synergy in terms of some of the outcomes.
Back-to-back wins and now the clear world number one. Something even Matt Wilkinson is struggling to grasp.
I've been trying to win everywhere for ever, and it's never happened. And this year I just seem to keep picking up trophies, which is making me feel pretty good.
But the result was really no surprise. The Copacabana product, absolutely clinical. It was a 9.2, and as much as South Africa's Geordie Smith served up in reply, he just couldn't match a rampaging Wilco. That wave scored 8.2, and the contest was over. Wilkinson becoming the first goofy footer since Marco Calupo 17 years before to ring the bell. And now firming as a genuine title contender.
I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing and try and not make any mistakes and throw everything into every wave I catch.
Moments earlier, as the 27-year-old was carried up the stairs, Mick Fanning was one of the first to meet him. Knocked out in the semis, there's speculation it'll be the last event the three-time world champion surfs in Australia amid growing talk of retirement.
Look, I had fun. I was laughing and having a good time, and yeah, I'm just want to say thanks to everyone for all the support and everything over the last sort of 18 months, and you know, throughout my career as well.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Oh, I think this is the first Nationals that I've won for a few years, mate, so I'll take this one.
It's just with the doc, mate. He'll just follow the concussion protocol. So, but he seems okay in the sheds, and so he'll be okay.
Forget a post-daylight saving sleep-in. 2,500 pairs of heels instead hit the pavement. And despite a steep start in the Hilda Harbour 10K, the pace was on. Vlad Shatrov charged up Memorial Drive, the first to the top, and by the time the chasing pack arrived at Nobby's, he was out of sight. Christian Lotter was second, but being pursued by a fast-finishing Steve Monaghetti. It was of no concern to Shatrov, with the current Olympic marathon contender comfortably winning in 30 minutes and 8 seconds.
Hard, really hard. Yeah, brutal run. It's very hot and humid, but extremely windy. For me, it was just run as hard as I could today. Just come off a big training block and just getting ready for my next big race.
Lotter held on for second, while Monaghetti was 33 seconds further back in third, at 53 years old and in his first race since Achilles surgery last November.
It was just great to be back. I felt the buzz and the adrenaline and kicked in, and once we took off, I settled in and I quite enjoyed being back.
Anna Grant was the fastest woman, finishing in 40 minutes and 29 seconds.
I had someone in front of me. She went up the hill quite hard and I just stuck to my race plan, and eventually she burned out and I led the rest of the way.
But for most of the field, it was just about finishing the race, and today that proved a tough task. The crowd making sure no one was left behind.
The people out there in the half, they'd be doing it pretty tough today, so good on them. It's a challenge, but if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.